Shannon was just keen to share some of her personal experiences with you today, so it gives me great pleasure to welcome Mrs. Shannon Clough.
For so many people, Cerebral Palsy Alliance is a lifeline. We could not have survived without their support. And as you are all donors to this wonderful organisation, I could not have survived without you. So thank you. You have made a huge difference in the lives of people with cerebral palsy and their families. As a mother of a child who had severe cerebral palsy, I know every cent donated by people like you benefits children, adults and families just like mine. This is Ethan, my beautiful son who sadly lost his life just over 5 years ago. When Ethan was born at 26 weeks, he was diagnosed as being profoundly deaf and having severe cerebral palsy. I, like so many other parents, didn't have a clue of where to get help or what to do. I didn't even know what cerebral palsy was. Cerebral Palsy Alliance, or the Spastic Centre as it was known then, became our saviour. Ethan had the most severe type of cerebral palsy and he could not do anything at all for himself. He couldn't talk, he couldn't hear, he couldn't hold his head up, he couldn't sit, he couldn't lie down, he couldn't walk, he couldn't eat or drink, he couldn't use a toilet, he couldn't use his hands or feet, but he could smile. This, along with his beautiful sparkly blue eyes, was how he communicated with the world. He used to smile for yes and stick out his tongue for no. So it was always a game of 20 questions to work out what he wanted. Despite these severe disabilities, Ethan was highly intelligent. In fact, he was the youngest child in Australia to be using eye gaze technology to access and use a computer. And he did more in 6 years than most do in 60. In fact, Ange, that we saw before on the video, was his teacher and was teaching him how to use his eye gaze computer. He did more, like I said, he did more in six years than most do in 60, from raising a lot of money to help kids with CP, to lunching with the then Prime Minister Rudd and Governor-General Quentin Bryce, to dancing with the Wiggles and High Five. People who met him remembered him. He was and is a true inspiration. Having a severely disabled child changes your life forever. On Friday, I was a full-time high school teacher. By Sunday, I was a full-time carer. Ethan was our entire world. He was everything to us, and we adored him. But he was hard work. Cerebral Palsy Alliance helped us in every aspect of Ethan's life, from eating to sleeping. Our daily life was a struggle, and they helped us from the 4 hours of feeding a day, to the lifting, to the nappy changing, to the daily standing in his heart walker, to the pureeing of food and thickening of drinks, to the waking in the night 7 or 8 times to turn him, or pull his blanket up or off, or to scratch an itch, to the ridiculous cost for equipment, to the schooling, hospital visits and therapies. Life got very difficult and things we used to do stopped, like going on a plane. Ethan wasn't allowed to fly, he was too disabled. Or dropping into the shops to pick up milk just didn't happen when it would take a good 45 minutes of getting in and out of equipment. And if I happened to be holding Ethan when the phone rang, I couldn't just put him down. He had to go into a piece of equipment first. To get Ethan ready for school each day, we needed to be up at 4:30 a.m, just so he could be ready by 7:30. That was after being awake all night and before going off to work each day. Getting out and about for the busy schedule appointments always involved 2 people, as I couldn't push a pram for my baby and a wheelchair for my son. The help we receive from Cerebral Palsy Alliance is something I will always be so grateful for. Ethan had a huge amount of equipment he needed just to get through a day, and on the screens you can see some of the costs of that equipment. This included a mobility pram, a standing frame, feeding chairs, harnesses and neck collars, a second skin suit to hold his body in the correct position for growth, specialised boots to stop his muscles contorting in his feet, a sleep system and temperature control sheet. Most kids with cerebral palsy often have trouble regulating their temperatures. A heart walker for hip stability. This machine that you can see up on the screen took us about 45 minutes to get him into each day, and he would need to stand for at least an hour each day and then another half an hour or so to get him out. Ethan hated it, hated getting into it, but enjoyed being able to see the world from a different angle. It also helped with digestion and relaxing his muscles. Floor seating, switching equipment and software, a height adjustable bed, a shower trolley for bathing. Before this, I would need to change into a costume, hop in the bath, while another carer handed Ethan to me to wash. He was just too difficult to wash over a sink. A manual wheelchair to be able to get out and about. An eye gaze computer for Ethan to be able to communicate with us and others. A wheelchair van. And we had his powered wheelchair on order when he passed away. Over $200,000 worth of equipment in a very short lifetime. All needs, not wants, all very necessary to get through a day, and all very expensive. Each piece of equipment was specifically used to either protect Ethan from harm, for mobility, to stop his hips dislocating, to prevent him aspirating on food and drink and getting pneumonias, or for ease on the carer. I have metal rods in my spine, so lifting Ethan and his equipment was very hard on me. For example, his wheelchair weighed over 45 kilos and had to be dismantled into 3 pieces before it could be loaded or unloaded into our station wagon, sometimes 8 times a day, depending on the schedule of busy appointments. This was extremely difficult until we got our wheelchair van. On that note, I need to thank Mr. Thomas Keneally and apologise. You were the very kind gentleman who helped me one day when loading Ethan and all of his gear into the back of my car up here on the hill after a function. I didn't know at the time who you were, until the very next day I saw you on the front of the Manly Daily in an article about your book, Schindler's Ark. I thought you were someone's lovely grandfather who came to my rescue. So I apologise for not recognising you, and thank you again. As a part-time high school teacher and my husband a full-time landscaper, we couldn't afford all of this expensive equipment. Cerebral Palsy Alliance helped us pay for most of these pieces of equipment, and you in turn made that happen. Most people think that the government jumps in and pays for equipment like wheelchairs as soon as you find out you have a disabled child. No, it's people like Cerebral Palsy Alliance that make this happen. The therapists and the generous donations that people like you donate that make it happen. Your monthly donations, your letter response donations, and your gifts from your wills all make a huge difference. Apart from equipment, Cerebral Palsy Alliance helped us in so many more ways. They gave Ethan a future. We didn't realise the potential Ethan had until we became involved in this wonderful organisation. Ethan's therapists included his physio, his occupational therapist, his speech therapist, his conductive education teachers, his task specialists, and his hydrotherapist. And would spend at least 3 to 4 days a week, if not more, at the then Spastic Centre. It became our second home. We knew our son was receiving world-class therapy and attention, and we as his parents were receiving the best advice and support available. They even extended their help to his school. Ethan was able to attend a mainstream school with the help of his therapists. Our therapists were always there when we needed them most. Cerebral Palsy Alliance gives many families, or helps many families cope with cerebral palsy, but it also has given them many families hope. The Research Foundation in the last 10 years or so has made some remarkable breakthroughs, as we've heard from Petra. Research into cerebral palsy is helping people in a number of ways, from the level of severity they experience to the access of equipment. Ethan's eye gaze computer was $33,000. Now they are around $5,000. Research has helped this happen in the last 5 years. Losing Ethan devastated our lives, and we all hope for prevention and cure. So why not aim for that? I wonder what the Research Foundation will achieve in the next 10 years. As a result of my passion for this, I've proudly taken on a role of chair for a new group called CP Quest, a group of people with cerebral palsy, parents of children with cerebral palsy, and researchers working together on this mission. Your support has also helped build this fantastic establishment, a place of hope, place full of amazing people who do incredible things here every day. I'm sad Ethan never got to experience this new building. But as we all know, it's the people inside a house that make it a home. That hasn't changed. But the building does lift everyone's spirits and makes it a place we all want to be. It's too late to help my Ethan, but throughout his life I was his voice, and I continue to be that now. He would want me to say thank you to each and every one of you. I know just how many families like ours rely on this organisation. Your continued support helps provide life-changing services and fund vital equipment for children and adults with cerebral palsy. Ethan's best friend and girlfriend, Rachel, is here with us today. You can read more about this friendship and our life in the bequest booklet, which is included in the event bags you have received. Thank you, or as Ethan would do, a kiss to say thank you.